find it. I'm sure it's on the podcast. Good to go?
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Carmel Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for October 2017. Your board members' names are in front of you on the placards. On my left, we have Mike Carnazza, Town Code Enforcement Officer, and Greg Fulchetti, Town Council. The way we operate is we'll hear the case. As I call you up, I'm going to swear you in unless you're an attorney. You're sworn in by law. If you're going to be speaking, if not, after we hear the case, we'll ask for input from the public, at which time we'll ask you to come up. If there's going to be multiple speakers on an application, we just ask you to not be repetitive as the person in front of you. I mean, everyone has the right to speak, but it's going to be a long night, so let's keep it to the point and as short as possible. So the way we operate is we hear the case, we'll give you a chance to speak, and then when I close the hearing, there's no further input from the public. We'll adjudicate at the end of the night. Again, there's no input from the public after a case is closed at that point, okay? Will you all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and also remind the public when you do speak, you need to speak into the microphone. This is being recorded for a matter of public record, so the secretary can hear you clearly. Please speak into the microphone. Our first case tonight had requested a holdover. I guess they need more time. And that's Lena Smajlov. I'll look for a motion to comply.
Motion to hold over?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so if you're here for that case tonight, it won't be heard. Okay, our second case tonight is Julius Mangione, number 2. And they were seeking a variation of section 15615, seeking a use variance for additions, improvements to different lots. The properties are located at Rock Road North and Rock Road South, Carmel, New York, 10512. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Anthony Pieragostini, representing the property owner, Julius Mangione.
I assume you're an attorney?
I'm an attorney
Okay, I don't
in
think
Mount
so, yeah.
Kisco, and I filled out the application on all the paperwork there.
Okay.
So what we have here is a variance is requested due to the prior non-conforming use and the expansion of this property, which is improved by all single-family homes. And as stated in the application, some of these properties are land lease properties. That means that the building themselves are owned by the tenant, has a 99-year lease, and they're on Mr. Mangione's property. And that's consisting of probably 5 different lots, which are detailed in the application. And then there's 6 other lots that are owned by Mr. Mangione. They're buildings that are rented out. They're different tenants. In all, there's about 33 acres of land. Mr. Mangione took title about 25 years ago in 1993. And a lot of these changes that have occurred over the years occurred even prior to the time that he bought this property. Once the building inspector was there and wrote up the different variances that are required after these improvements have been made, which are basically additions to single-family houses. And as detailed, it's broken up, even though there's one lot consisting of 33 acres, there's 11 different tax lots and different addresses. So we have 5 of the lots are land leased, the building's owned by the tenants and the occupants. The buildings are not owned by Mr. Mangione, and that's tax lots 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11. And they added on to their property certain additions. Then there's the other tax people that are owned by Mr. Mangione, that certain additions were made prior to his becoming owner. And once these issues became known, he's now trying to legalize everything. All right, so they're only
these additions were made without seeking permission or building permits and what have you? Without.
Right. He didn't even know these were occurring, and these were made over the prior to 25 years
And the
ago.
prior owner had no
Not that I'm aware of, Your Honor.
One or two of them got permits, because they showed me a lot on a survey showing a lot as a separate lot. So they did get a building permit for, I think, two of the applicants.
I'm not aware of
I'm
it.
pretty sure that
Yeah.
we went through the file with one of the representatives, and there were permits that were granted for some of the applications.
But they were able to get
We were-
permits without variances?
We were not aware. They're all on here now. Everything's being cleared up.
So it's basically trying to clean up
Absolutely.
past
Trying to
sins.
and there's one new application that has not yet been installed, and that was for that's one of the property owners that owns the building wants to put in a shed. So we have 5 that were prior done by the properties that he owns, and 5 on the structures that he doesn't own, and the additional variance is for tax lot .8, which wants to put in an 8 by 10-foot shed that has not been installed. So we added that on as a new application.
Okay. So how long have these additions and changes been present? You may have said it, but
I believe it's over 25 years. He took title in '93, and they happened before him. And we have a 1974 survey, and a lot of these things were there already, or were there already.
Okay, and it seems like it's its own self-enclosed neighborhood, so
Yeah.
I don't think there's any outside opposition to any of these changes. Otherwise, Mike, you probably would have gotten complaints through the years of any
Correct. We didn't get any.
complaints.
I think this came up through Dennis, if I remember correctly, right? Or was it when you applied for the permit? Dennis, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Okay.
And the building department's been quite understanding and helpful, and we appreciate that, everything they've done. So we're trying to legalize these. They're just additions as a non-conforming use. They added on minor additions, sheds, as stated in the application.
Yeah, this is unique. This is almost, what would you call it, co-op type? It wasn't filed though, correct?
Beg your pardon?
It's not filed as a co-op.
No, it's not a co-op.
So I don't know how they got all these tax ID numbers.
The town created them.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm saying I don't know how, meaning, how do you do it? You know, that's, generally, if you do a land lease, you do condo, co-op, something of that sort, where everything's delineated, correct? Okay.
Yeah, these are 99-year leases too, which have been in effect for many, many years, before he bought it.
So I was gonna say, how
Very
long,
unique piece
how
of
long has this
You know?
development been, a tax map filed, and we don't even have, it's not even dated, right?
There's no reason to make these lots tax lots.
Because it was all one.
It's all one lot,
Well, it was a big non-conforming lot
33 acres of non-conforming.
Okay.
with multiple dwellings on it.
All right, is that all you have for?
That's basically what we're
Presentation?
trying to do, yes, Your
All right, at this point, I'll open it up to the board for any questions or concerns down here.
Questions from me?
I mean, I drove up there, I mean, everything's well-screened and wooded, it's nice, buffers between most of the properties, and I almost lost my muffler on that one hump of a road, but that's another story. I did notice a lot of the salt barrels out there, because I can imagine in the winter it gets pretty tough. Down here, you guys have anything?
I have a couple questions. What is this here? Is that air conditioning? Is it a generator?
That barrel?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Rose.
That's just
Just speak into the microphone.
plastic drum.
It looked like it was some kind of mechanical device, like,
No, it's just a plastic drum, like a 55-gallon plastic drum.
Salt drum, right?
no? It wasn't supplying electricity or anything?
No.
It's plastic.
Doesn't look like a drum
It's a barrel, I think,
or
right?
a barrel. It doesn't really look like
Yeah,
that. You're sure of that?
yes. The black one is, correct?
Yeah, the little black round circular
It's
thing.
not that little, it's about the height of the
John,
stand here.
should you swear
Yeah, if you're
him?
going to be speaking, I need to swear you in and come up to the microphone. I assume you're Mr. Mangione?
No, I work for Mr. Mangione.
Okay.
This is Richard Bingham.
Richard Bingham is my name.
Step up, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Richard Bingham. I live at 56 Spencer Street in Mount Kisco. I worked for Mr. Mangione for several years.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do, sir.
All right, thank you. Continue, I'm sorry.
Yes, the barrel, that's a plastic barrel that was just laying there. We used that to fill with sand. You know, when one ran out, we had extra ones in case one deteriorated, and that's all that is. It's an extra barrel that was used for sand.
Just for salt in the road and what have you?
Yeah, so it was just an extra barrel if we needed an additional barrel somewhere along the road to put another one.
Okay, and you work for him at this property as maintenance?
If the road needs some filling in, I do that type of stuff for them, and in the winter, we do the plowing.
Okay.
Some of these buildings are a little dangerous. I do have concerns about the safety.
Safety of what?
Some of these buildings here, these accessory buildings. I don't know if you've looked at them, Mike. I don't know if that's something for you to look at some point.
If they're, the buildings that they're getting variances on, then they will get building permits and I'll go out there. If they're pre-existing legal, then they stay like that.
Even if they're in disrepair?
Disrepair, yes. Dangerous, no. So if I see something that's a problem, then they have to fix it, yes. But if it just doesn't look pretty,
No, some of them look dangerous.
okay, well, I'll take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are antiquated and look like they can use some refurbishment, but, you know, dangerous would be an assessment by Mike's department, so I don't know if that would be contingent to this decision tonight, but, okay, at this point, do you guys have anything else?
No, sir.
I'll open it up to the public if anyone wishes to speak on this application. Okay. Rose, do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, anybody, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing on this application.
So,
Second,
I'll second.
by Silvio, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right, number 3 this evening is Tentaglia. And they were seeking permission to retain an existing shed. The property is located at 11 Glen Ridge Road, Mahopac, New York, 10541. And you are?
Evan Tartaglia.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sir.
Just confirm your address again, I'm sorry.
11 Glen Ridge Road.
Okay, thank you. Let us know what your situation is here and the relief you seek.
Well, I just bought a home a couple months ago at that address, and the shed was not legal at the time, so I'm here to do that. Apply for the variance or get it approved.
Okay, so you bought the house and title search didn't pick it up or anything?
No, so I'm a first-time home buyer, so apparently what had happened is my broker was able to, through the bank, get everything finalized regardless of the situation with the shed, and, you know, it became my responsibility to take care of that, and I was actually supposed to be seen last month. I'm just trying to get the shed legal at this
All
point.
right, how long do you think it's been there for?
It's a great question. It's a nice shed.
It
It's
does.
a
It
nice
looks like
shed.
it's in
I
good
use
shape.
it.
Maybe
It's,
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah, maybe 10 years.
Yeah, judging
max.
from the style and the
I'll take Mike's word
T111.
for it. Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, it's screened well, it's good landscaping, and actually, there's good screening on the back of it between properties, too, so. There's no other property you can buy to bring this into conformance? Obviously not.
No, and I don't know if I included in the package that you all have, I have a letter from my neighbor as well stating that.
Do you
they
have it with you?
I have it in my phone, a picture. I have a screenshot of it that I have no problem presenting.
At this point, there's no way to get it for the record, but
Okay.
he could follow up tomorrow, Mike, right? Send a copy to,
If you want, absolutely.
if you want to read it quickly for the record and who it is, maybe that'll get recorded, and
Absolutely.
then for the record, just submit a paper copy or email it to
me or Rose.
Rose or Mike. Or Dawn.
To whom it may concern, my wife and I, Declan and Mary Moran, are the owners of a single-family home located at 7 Glen Ridge Road, Mahopac, New York, 0065. We would like to state that we have no objection whatsoever to our neighbor's backyard storage shed located at 11 Glenridge Road. We are happy to support our neighbor in their application with you. If you have additional questions, please do not hesitate to call us, and they provided their number. And then,
Okay, yeah, keep that private. And that's noted for the record. Thank you for that. I'll open to the board. Silvio?
No questions?
Rose?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
Good down here.
Questions. No questions.
All right, at this point, any input from the public on this application? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close?
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. Oh, by the way, you can stick around for the end of the night to, while we decide to hear your outcome, or you can follow it up on, I think it's channel 25
Depends if you have,
on
It
FiOS.
depends if it's
Fios
Fios or
Comcast.
or you
I
can
think
check with us
Comcast is
tomorrow,
8.
too.
Or you could check with,
I would love if I could do that. Haven't been home yet.
Go home.
Thank you,
that
guys.
makes two of us. All
Thank you.
right, good luck.
Have a good night.
Number 4, Christopher Scalera, looking for a variation of Section 280A, seeking permission to construct a house on a lot without frontage on state, county, or town road. And it's located at 48 Muscoot Road East, Mahopac, New York, 10541.
Hello,
Good evening. You are?
Chris Calera,
State your name, what's your address for the record?
8 Meadowcrest Drive, Mapac, New York.
And raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
John, this is a renewal of a expired
Right.
280A. They put a 2-year back in 2009.
So just the board members who weren't on the board at the time, this was previously approved and just expired, and I'm sure you'll give us a reason why, if you don't mind.
Just the whole process to get, to get the SWIP and the engineering and all of that, took longer than we
Which is
expected.
a lot
and
more
it
difficult
left.
these
Absolutely.
days.
Yeah.
as
But
I'm
now we
aware.
have, this is it. Everything's done, except for this.
Okay, just quickly for the public and for the record, just go quickly through it again, if you don't mind. You had one lot with zero frontage.
That's
It's an
it.
existing lot up in Rolling Greens, and the road in front of the lot was never constructed. So that's where he's left with no access to a town or state or county road.
So do you have a easement to get in and out of the property? How's that gonna work?
We don't need an easement.
Private road,
It's not
right?
really, it's owned, it's part of the lot.
Oh, the road is, oh,
Yeah,
It's the spur of Muscoot, and
Right.
Mike Simone is, I believe Mike Simone is the one that looked at that and gave, or
It's
will
a
give
pa-
authorization.
It's a paper
once you're
road,
done.
which is
Correct.
still a town road, so.
oh, it's a chicken and
He's
egg
not going
situation.
through somebody else's property.
Got it, got it, okay.
All right, so any questions from the board
I already shot mine out.
down here? You guys,
Wait, wait,
anything?
Rose.
All right,
One quick question.
I'm sorry.
When I drive up Muscoot, there's, I want to say like a driveway, and it looks like you can go to your neighbor's house or go to your lot. Who owns that little section there? Is that owned by both of you? It's
when you pull-
paved, when you pull up,
it's a circle.
right, and it looks like there's a little section of concrete, blacktop, and you can go to your neighbors right there, or go up your road.
It would show on the lot, but it's, the path that looks like just a driveway going to my lot.
That's
kinda like a-
yours?
Yes. So to the
Or
left.
that?
That belongs to the house to the left.
That belongs to the house to the left,
Yeah.
so you have to cross over his,
No. That, I don't cross over anybody's lot. That driveway is part of my lot,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, is there any input from the public on this application? Come up and state your name. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Brendan Donahue. I live at 80 Glen Ida Boulevard, Mapac.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Let us know what you're...
I have a number of concerns about this project. First, in looking at maps of the project or of the area of the project, I have concerns about were there a fire, would the fire department be able to adequately establish a fire ground? It's a very long driveway that would get to this area. We don't have hydrants in that area. It would be very, very difficult. As a former volunteer fireman, it would be very, very difficult to maintain or establish a fire ground there and safely battle a fire were there a fire in the home or the surrounding area. It also, first and foremost, it would be a major change to the feel of the neighborhood, and I feel that the community in general in that area would be affected. I think that obviously these zoning laws are put in place to protect the community over the interest of one individual, and I would hope that the zoning laws were allowed to stand and do their job rather than be cast aside. Also, during this construction, were it to go through, obviously there would be major disruptions in terms of noise, potential damage to not only homes in the area, but to the environment. It is on a grade. There would potentially be blasting or other construction hazards. That would be a serious concern to me. My well stands between the house and the construction site. There could be serious ecological issues. I know that there was talk of septic fields extending into the woods that run next to my house. Also, you know, it was a concern. You know, I bought my house 3 years ago, and one of the major issues in bringing me to Mayapack from Ossining, where I grew up, was the zoning laws that I felt protected the feel of the community and the character of the community in a way that is being lost by so many other areas. You know, I grew up in Ossining, and it's houses upon houses, and it's lost much of its feel and character as a community. And so the zoning, the upzoning, the larger lots and frontage needed to build was a major factor in bringing me here as a home buyer. To know that my home and the character of my neighborhood was going to be kept in a particular way was a major factor in deciding to buy a home here. So finally, I would, just in summation, I would hope that you would let the laws stand that they are, allow this variance to remain expired, and not renew it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Just to respond to one one of your concerns, he wouldn't be able to build without an approved by the Board of Health a septic system, so that you're concerned about it being next to the woods.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, but obviously there are unforeseen circumstances. Otherwise, there would never be any kind of natural or ecological disaster. You know, if everything could be seen down the road, that'd be great. But you know, obviously there's always a risk.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It has been approved by the Board of Health.
You do have,
We
okay.
went through the whole process. Everything's been approved. Board of Health, all the septic, you know, everything that you have to do, the perk tests, everything, this is it. If this
course.
didn't expire, it would all be
Under
already
construction.
approved.
Okay. Is there someone else that wishes to speak on this application? I think he was first, or if you're coming up. State your name and address, please, and raise your right hand.
Good evening. My name's Steve Corman. I live at 32 East Branch Road.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thanks.
Okay, in regards to this application, I'd like to go over a little history of that area and its surrounding lots and this lot also. Going by the guidelines with the zoning board, the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method. He's looking for a 100-foot variance on road frontage. He's got 0. I think the minimum is 100 foot. Way back in the 70s, these parcels with the original owner was told way back then when they built the house that the parcel he built on was okay, but later on, the parcels in the back, which is this one of these, he should have did it right in the beginning, back in, I think it was 1978 in front of this board. He was told, put the road in back then. He never did it, felt it was an inconvenience, and he got the variance to build his house. But I believe the exact wording from the zoning board back then was, don't come back and try to nitpick and do the parcels piecemeal later on. So now here we are again. So I think that the requested variance is substantial, and also that the benefit sought can be achieved by another method, which would have been to put the road in originally. So now we're looking at the same thing again. And you also have the issue that in order to build back there with all that rock and bedrock and whatever else is in there, there's going to be blasting involved. It's been done in the past. There was a house built there years ago, and there was a lot of blasting. There's a lot of wells, some wells gonna be very close to this. I know my well, since that other house went in, I get a lot more sediment, I go through a lot more filters in my particular well. So that was definitely a detriment later on. So according to those guidelines, I would hope that you would consider this and rule against this applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. State your name and address for the record, please. Raise your right hand.
My name is Lauren Sachs, 5 Meadow Drive, Carmel. I'm familiar with the property. I'm a local broker for the last 30-plus years.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
This particular parcel sits on a mountaintop on a paper road. This property was merged. It was 2 lots that were merged into 1 lot to create a building lot, and that's at the time a building permit was issued. At such time, a large colonial was going to be built. Construction was started. The market fell through. That did not occur. A much smaller home will be built, not requiring that type of blasting or that type of disturbance. This is an oversized piece of property for the area. It's not on the typical half acre. I think it's 2.3 acres. So it's a substantially large piece of property that had a building permit. Construction was started. So a precedence was already set. The property should go forward as it had in the past. As far as a change of the community, it will fit in very nicely and add to the community. As far as damage to the area, would be, there will be a home, and what was woods would have a home. But that's progress. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard on this application?
Anthony Mirando. I live, I promise to tell the truth.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So help me God.
What's your address?
I
I'm
live
sorry.
right next door.
Okay.
This was, before that, it was my sister's and my brother's property.
What's your address, just
Yes.
for the record? What's your address for the record?
Oh, 33 Muscat Road East. Huh? 24, I'm sorry.
You know why you haven't been getting mail?
I lived across the street, I'm sorry. 24, I don't know why I said 33. Anyway, it's tired. Those paper roads, they're paper roads. They're there to supply, to get to the properties. They're right away to all the properties up there. I'm not going against him. He wasn't the original person that did this. I don't know who you are. I met somebody else that bought that property.
Oh,
You-
Joe.
Joe?
Yeah, Joe.
You related to him? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. I had nothing to do with all this. They bought it for my brother and sister. And I was here trying to get properties beyond that at one time, which I have 2 lots back there that can't access. And the neighbors came out and fought that. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm not against them. All I'm interested is the plan the same as it was. You didn't change anything.
Actually, the house got smaller.
Oh, that don't matter. Yeah. But
But other than that, the plan, I guess, it's
Just so you guys understand, this is all under, most of it is under purview of the planning board?
Yes.
It was just rejected.
no,
Not planning board.
No,
This is an existing lot.
yes.
It's not being created right now.
Some of the concerns were already vetted by the planning board.
Back in the
And it's an
day.
approved plan, it's
Yes.
just the property expired.
Yeah.
I mean, the variance expired, it was a 2-year limit on it at the
Yes.
time. So this has all been
Yeah.
vetted once
Well,
before.
it's going to affect me the most. It's going to come in front of my house. And I can answer your question, that blacktop is mine. I did that to improve the road out in front, which is a paper road. I don't own that property, but I have the right to use it, just like he has the right to use it. Guy across the street has the right to use it. Anybody who has access to property has the right to use this property.
Paper road.
It was, and the town can take it over at any time. So, I'm not a lawyer, but that's what I said. But anyway, what I'm concerned is the project the same that it was approved, and what's going to happen in front of my house? What Mr. Simone said was there was going to be a jug handle there, because we have a problem with snow, where you push the snow, that's all. So, and we have garbage pails out there, so we need a little bit extra to move it over a little bit. But that's what Simone was supposed to, it was supposed to be subject to his approval of it, originally. So that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about him building a house. He has a right to build a house like anybody else has a right to build a house.
I don't know anything to that effect, Mike. Have you heard anything from?
Oh, I've talked to Mike Simone. When I was going to build a project, I was going to make sure that there was enough room for snow and everything else, and it wasn't going to affect the neighbors as much.
Okay, Phil just pointed out to me in the record from the minutes from when this came to us a couple of years ago, Mr. Frazier, God rest his soul, was our prior chairman, stated the board received a letter from the highway superintendent which stated that if the board granted this 288 variance, that would help him by providing a place to put the snow in the bad weather.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm
so
sure,
It has to be adapted, because that's, I
Mike
put that
will address
blacktop
that
down,
when
but
the time
it has to be
comes.
made wider in front of our two houses, where those houses are, that's all. So we have garbage cans out there, people park like a street, so that's the only question. Beyond that is a different story. You know, that's my only concerns,
okay,
all right? But
duly noted.
I just wanted to give you a little, history on it, and I feel for him. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
It's in the discussion.
Anybody else wish to be heard? Name and address, raise your right hand.
Megan Sacedo. I live at 80 Glen Idle Boulevard.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so
I
help you
do.
God.
Yes.
Thanks.
I don't know if it's pertinent to this situation, but we were able to actually locate that home on the internet, and it is for sale. So if you actually wanted to go online, you can actually get the specs of what this home will look like at that location. But it's already under S48 Muscoot, and there's a price set to it.
Okay,
So-
I'm sure that is the case since it's been 2 years.
Yeah,
And
so-
as the applicant stated,
So, but if
I'm
that
in
helps in
construction,
any
so
way
I know
to-
it takes forever nowadays to get approvals and,
Right, but if
engineering
one
and
just wanted to
architectural.
see what, how big of a home this was gonna be and what it was gonna look like on the property.
The plans are in the file also.
Right, yeah, that's,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Pam? Name and
Sharon
address.
Mirando. I live at 24 Muscoot. I'm the one
got
that
it
will
right.
come across. Yes, I know where I live.
Swear to tell the truth, right hand, swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I just have a concern with, it's a turnaround it's a tough turnaround. I mean, like, there never could be buses that went down there when my kids were growing up or anything. And I just want to know how that's going to be affected. Is that going to be made wider? My concern is the snow. They can't, what they do now is we allow them to just push it in front of us and leave it there. Obviously, that can't be done anymore, so I don't know where this snow is going
Right,
to go.
unfortunately, we can't answer that because it's under the auspice of the highway department.
Okay, and my other question is,
But as I just read, Mike Simone, who's the superintendent of the
right, he
highways,
talked to
is
us
aware
about
of
it
it.
when we were going to do this project. And I was pretty much assured that we would be thought of and, consulted sort of before anything was done.
Put it this way.
But I just
they-
wanted to still be out there.
I know they pined for advancement to roads and whatnot because it helps them with snow removal. When you get a 2-foot snow and there's nowhere to
Well,
put
that's
everything.
why when we said
that's-
it to him, Tony, my husband talked to them and said, you can push it right in front of the house there, it's not a big deal, and that's
Right.
what they've been doing. But now, that's not gonna be the case, so that's why I just wanna make sure, where is it gonna go? And my other concern was, I just have one question, everybody's saying the house is made smaller, but has the position of the house moved, or is it exactly where it was gonna be? Is the footage from my property still just as much?
The house can go anywhere inside the envelope. There's a setback envelope. They can move it around inside that envelope.
Right, what I'm asking is it being moved, or is it being
Do you
placed
have a
in the
plan
same
there that you
place?
could show? Because you could look here if you want.
We do.
Check it out.
You have it, Mike?
Oh, me, I'm not gonna know. Oh, I'm not. You don't know where mine is? Oh.
I just hit the microphone in there.
Take your breath before you do that.
Okay, so we're over here? No. We're over here? Oh, and you're gonna still be over here. Oh, so they're still way distant. This is where it's going. And how big a house is going now?
In the same spot. Yes.
No, it's got the septic.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't,
The house will be in the same spot. Driveway, everything will be in the same spot.
You gotta give her a chance to address.
and how big is this house gonna be?
1,600 and
Just asking for
something
my
square
own.
feet.
The house is huge. I'm not against it by any means, I'm only concerned about the snow.
He's allowed an envelope, like Mike was saying, he's allowed an envelope. He's
story.
not
Okay.
encroaching that, he doesn't need another
old
variance or
Yes,
anything
yes.
further.
Yeah, the snow is my biggie. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Can I have that?
thank you very much. All right, anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Somebody.
Ah,
Almost got out.
sold.
Almost got out.
Name and address, please.
Dan Smith, 81 Glen Ida Boulevard, Mayapack, New York.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. I lived in that property for about 3 years now. When I first moved in, I actually got a few people in the town that were familiar with the area that kind of warned me about the well, and I guess there was some trouble before some of the properties were built up there, that there was some issues with the water. With the new property coming in, I'm very concerned with my well. I'm actually touching that property, my butt right up against it, and so I'm just very concerned about that. And also, I have a 18-month at home, and my wife's 38 weeks pregnant, so
Oh,
I'm hoping that-
congratulations.
Thank you. With all the blasting and everything else that's going on, obviously very concerned about that.
All right, I don't know for sure that there's blasting. He would have to get a permit
He
to
would have to get a
blast,
permit
which they do
through the
pre-blast
engineering.
surveys and what have you. I know, usually they have to do it like within 300 feet or 200 feet, something like that. They
And
would
you'd
have
be
to,
notified as the adjoining neighbor.
right.
Okay. There's also been some construction trucks, some excavators and stuff going up there already, and it's made some noise, and it's been somewhat disruptive.
I know what it's like. I got it going on next to my house, too. Just rest assured that it shouldn't be longer than a 9 to 12-month process, if not sooner. I mean, nowadays, houses are built a lot quicker, but, yeah, we hear your concerns.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
John, I have a couple questions if nobody else has.
Sure.
in the audience. Oh,
Mr. Scalera?
I know, you had said you made it smaller. I overheard you say 1,600 square feet the house is going to be?
I think it's 1677, I think. I said.
1677.
Hang on.
Why did you reduce it?
Just-
Is this going to prevent blasting? Are you
No,
not going
no,
to?
there's no blasting, but,
There is no, there will
just
be no
for-
blasting?
For sale value. I mean, I think just people genuinely, aren't going for the mini mansions. So it's just a sensible home. But-
The more
Okay.
square footage, the more cost.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
So
Very good price.
there won't be any blasting going on? Okay.
so you're bringing in fill to meet your grades and what have you?
Are you going to maintain the woods that are going along? It's a long
It's gonna
road
be-
going in.
It's going to be landscaped.
It's going to be landscaped, but you're going to try and keep it wooded?
Absolutely.
Will there be any other lots that are going to be developed in that area?
I don't think it's possible.
No?
Not
Okay.
possible.
Have.
Okay. Does the board, any other board members have questions?
No questions.
Okay. Unless anyone else wishes to be heard, I'll look for a motion to close this application, this hearing, I'm sorry.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, number 5, Matthew Tucker, for a variation of section 156-15, seeking permission to install a front porch with a roof. Property is located at 330 Forest Road, Mahopac, New York. State your name and address for the record, please.
Matt Tucker, 330 Forest Road, Mayapack.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. All right, let us know what you're seeking here.
I own a small house in Lake Secor community, 860 square foot house, and I just want to put a front porch on it.
Okay, and it looks like you're maintaining the same lot line of the right side of the property coming out, so.
That's correct.
The need for him being here, because it's connected. I met you out there last night. Looks like a nice plan. The existing deck is there now, basically in the same footprint, so it's not encumbering any further property, to the best of my knowledge. There's no other property that you can buy to make this conform, obviously.
Sorry?
There's no other property you can buy or purchase to bring this into conformity. Obviously, you're landlocked there.
Right,
on each side.
exactly.
There's no septic or, it's all sewer in Secor. Board members?
No questions.
No questions.
No question? No question. No question. All good.
All right, any input from the public on this application? Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll look for a motion to close the hearing on
So moved.
this application. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, number 6, Zakatinsky, variation of section 156-47-1, seeking permission to construct a roof on site of existing commercial garage. Property is located at 58 Carolan Road East, Carmel, New York. Name and address for the record, please.
William Zakatinsky, number 58 and number 62 Carolyn Road, New York. Yes.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, let us know what you're looking to do.
We have a garage. We've been, it's been there, if you go back on deeds, it actually goes back to the 40s. Okay? I do run a business out of it. We've been here 75 years. And we're looking to put on the side of it a roof overhang, about 15 feet. And it's mainly to protect, we do outdoor power equipment, and it's mainly to keep it out of the rain. It's customers' equipment. And you clean it up and you want to bring it back, and it rains, and it's muddy, and it's a little bit of everything. So it's just a way, and we want to do it very, very aesthetically pleasing, so it really blends in and.
It's somewhat residential and
Yes, we're
design,
trying to make it
yeah,
look
looks-
as residential as possible.
Okay.
You know, it's going to be architect designed, and it's going to be built very well.
When I was out there, I did see all the equipment, and, yeah, I see what your point is, and that'll help, I guess, shield some of that from public view as well.
Correct, without a doubt.
And you're just doing an overhang, you're not closing any walls?
No,
or
we're not
anything?
closing it in, no.
There's no other property you can buy to bring this into conformance, you're pretty much landlocked up there. It's not affecting septic or anything.
No, I mean, we've got over 3 acres on that lot right there. I think we're over 100 feet from any property line.
But obviously, that's the obvious spot because it's connected to where you do your work.
Correct.
So, all right. Any questions from the board down here?
No questions. No questions. No questions.
Guys?
Is there going to be electric involved at all?
We might put some lights up in it.
Are you going to be doing any work outside, or is that just for
No,
storing
no,
things?
it's for storage.
All the work will be inside?
All the work's always
Yeah,
inside.
he's got an immaculate shop. I saw it yesterday. It's like
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
scary how clean and neat it is. All right, any input from the public on this application? All right, I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. I lost my page here. All right, number 7, Kamala Associates, seeking an interpretation to 156-28 that the existing single-family dwelling can be converted to a two-family or a use variance to permit a two-family dwelling use in a single-family zone. Applicant also seeking clarification of earlier ZBA application dated 12/2/16 that the variance granted for an office use had an illegal condition in that it was improperly granted to the owner personally and seeks an interpretation that the proposed conversion to residential studio apartment is more restrictive than a legal commercial office use. The property is located at 87 Fair Street, Carmel, New York. Mr. Schilling is representing. Will you folks be speaking tonight? I should swear you in case. Raise your right hand, please. All right, you won't be speaking. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? So help you God. So state your name for the record, please.
My name is Sugriv Barnwal.
Just speak
Yeah, into the microphone, sorry.
My name is Sugriv Barnwal.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, Bill.
My name is William Schilling, and as Mr. Barnwell has introduced himself, he is a member of the owner LLC Kamala Associates. This property is on Fair Street. It's 87 Fair Street. It consists of .65 acres. It's an existing little residential compound or complex in a residential zone. There are 3 structures on the property now. One is the main structure, we'll call it, which is being used as a two-family. And it has been a two-family since 1978. There's a former barn that's been converted to a residential use, and that came through this zoning board several months ago, in which the board approved the conversion per a ZBA variance in 1984, where the board found that there was a variance and determined that the condition that was attached, which was tied to the person owning the property, was invalid. In that case, the variance continues, the illegal condition gets discarded. So we stand here today with that barn not being an issue, it having been asked and answered at the last meeting before you. And then the third building is a former office building. Again, it existed by virtue of a ZBA grant in 1984. And again, the ZBA tied the variance into personal ownership. And again, that is an inappropriate condition and illegal. And so respectfully, I submit to you that the variance remains, the office use remains a legal use, and the condition which was tied into the continued ownership of the Dorsey family is discarded. This property is serviced by town water and town sewer. It has a very sizable parking lot. It is on what is one of the major thoroughfares of Carmel, and that's Fair Street. And as I said before, it's in a residential zone. What we're requesting is twofold. There's the two buildings that we're requesting relief for. And again, I want to state that the converted barn is asked and answered. It's been resolved, and there's no further discussion on that. Now, the office itself, again, was pursuant to a 1984 zoning board variance, which contained the illegal condition. Today, I state to you that the office use is legal by virtue of the use variance that was granted, and we're simply seeking an interpretation that my client would like to get a favorable interpretation from this board, that converting it to a studio residential apartment is more restrictive than an office building in a residential zone. You have those powers pursuant to 15647 of your code, where you can find that one non-conforming use can be changed to another if you find it to be more restrictive. The second item of relief is with regard to the main structure, the currently being used as a two-family. And again, we seek your interpretive powers, and that's pursuant to 15628B of your code, where we submit that we meet all the conditions of the right to convert a single-family residence into a multifamily, and all those criteria outlined in 15628B are here, and I'll go over that in just a minute. If you find that the interpretation is not something you can do, we ask for a use variance to permit this two-family structure in a single-family zone. In support of our position, we have submitted previously an affidavit of my client, and that was about 6 or 7 months ago, I believe. We provided a revised statement of fact, and we provided floor plans for the multifamily, the two-family, and we provided a memorandum of law.
Can we just, excuse me, can you say two-family instead of multifamily? Because that confused some of the board members. Multifamily is 3 or more. Two-family is two-family, one-family is one-family, so.
It's currently a two-family use.
But a multifamily, wouldn't it be a multifamily because there are more than two structures? No, it doesn't matter.
It would be
how
more
many-
than one principal use on a lot. There's a one-family principal, a two-family principal, and a current real estate office principal. But the real estate office principal, they're trying to say by making it into another one-family, would be getting rid of the mixed use, so there would no longer be commercial and residential on one lot. I think, I mean, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think that's what you're
No,
trying to say.
you do better than I do.
No,
Michael.
I just, when you say multifamily, though, the multifamily is 3 or more, so I want to make sure that you guys are clear that it's not.
Multi
three.
has to be in one specific building.
That's
my
correct.
bank account.
Like
If it's
Pulte
in-
had to do clusters of 3 or more to get the multifamily senior housing. That's why they did it that way.
But if you have different buildings, then it doesn't matter.
Correct.
Okay, that was news for me too. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just,
Thank you.
they asked that question by email, and I wanted to clarify before so
glad.
that everybody
Thanks, Mike.
understood what we were saying.
So the area and the facts of this particular case is, Michael suggested there are 3 structures. There is, importantly, there's town water and sewer. I know I've said that before, I'll probably say it again. There's a large parking lot, it's on a heavy thoroughfare. This has been a residential complex for a long, long time, at least since 1978, just as it sits today. 2-family for the structure and a converted office and a converted residence. The structures were built in the 1940s. The barn was converted in 72. The office was converted in 72 and received a certificate of occupancy. The main house was converted to a 2-family in 1978. In June of 2016, my client purchased this property at the courthouse steps at an auction. He was the highest bidder. Prior to his rush to make an offer, he consulted with several websites. One was auction.com, another was a Carmel website, all which led him to believe that these structures, as they were all legal. After his successful bid, but before the closing, he came to learn that there was illegality. However, as the attorneys on this board know, there are no conditions, there are no ability to withdraw. He made an offer, and now it's as is, and his options were to move forward or to lose his deposit. This was my client's virtual life savings, and he didn't want to lose his deposit. And it looked to him to be a good investment when he made the offer. Reviewing the file, again, the barn is of no consequence. It was determined by your board last time we were here to be a valid conversion. With regard to the office, I'm sure most of you know what it looks like, but it's right here. And it really does give the appearance of an office. It's a smaller building. It would be only a studio apartment. Over the years, this office has been used as an insurance company office, a real estate office, and a pool company. In 1984, notwithstanding the fact it was this way since 72, in 1984, the zoning board granted the variance that you can use this as an office as long as the Dorseys owned it, which of course was illegal. What we're seeking on this is this office be converted to residential. And if you accept the proposition that this office is legal as it is, it being granted a use variance, then you have the right to convert one non-conforming use to the other if you find it to be more restrictive, and that's pursuant to 15647. This is a couple of photographs of the 2-family. There is a separate front entrance and a separate side entrance. The side entrance services the upstairs unit. The downstairs is serviced by the front door. This has been in existence since 78. It is an up and down 2-family. Separate entrance, separate hallways, a well-run or well-constructed 2-family home. So as I said, with this having been converted to 2-family, the complex is complete since 1978. And again, it's town water and sewer, and on a very, very heavy thoroughfare, it being Fair Street. I also want to bring to your attention that this complex has a a very, very large parking area. Now, 15628 says parking is okay to convert as long as you have a space for every unit, and we have much more than that in this parking space. One 15628B states as follows. An existing dwelling in an R zone may be converted to family use provided that the building has a total floor area of 2,000 square feet. It does. Each dwelling unit in the building has at least 500 square feet. It does. The site is more than 20,000 square feet. We're about 6.65, bigger than 20,000. At least one parking space as defined in this chapter shall be provided for each dwelling unit. We provide that. The building shall comply with fire and building codes. We've been inspected by the fire inspector. And adequate water supplies. This is municipal water. I state to you that without any fear of contradiction, my client complies with every one of these requirements. And as a result, I submit to you again respectfully that he has the right as a matter of law to convert to this property to a two-family.
Excuse me, Bill.
Yeah.
Mike, can you confirm that it's been fire inspected from fire marshal?
I do not know that, but Joe did most of the properties over there, so I could pretty much say he did, but I can't confirm it for sure.
Okay.
I don't have
Thanks,
the file
Bill.
in front of me.
My client told me it had been, and I'm talking about the two-family.
So Mike came to inspect the house, after we purchased it, he
Not
himself
Mike.
had been here.
Not Mike. They're talking about the fire inspector.
Yeah, fire inspector, fire inspector, I'm not sure not that I know that, the fire inspector has been there, but Mike has been there.
We had a request for a municipal violation search. The previous owner wouldn't let me in the building to do the search. When they were I don't know if you were purchasing or somebody else was. As soon as they purchased the property,
sworn in.
I met Mrs. Barnwell at the house immediately, and I walked through the house at that point. I just did a walkthrough to verify what was there. We went through the office, the cottage, and the two-family. But I did not do a step-by-step fire inspection like Joe would do, to be honest. Yeah, if that's what you're thinking of, then no, I did not do that.
Yeah, can I say something?
Yeah, I have to swear you in.
Yeah. My name is Shalini Barnwal.
Oh, go ahead.
and,
Just turn the microphone down so you could pick you up.
my name is Shalini Barnwal, and
You swear to
I
tell the
swear.
truth, the whole truth, nothing but the
tell
truth, so help
the
you God.
truth, yes.
Thank you.
So after we bought the property, we didn't had before to do fire inspection or anything, right? So I went to see Mike in here to get all the violation report and all that, right? So I asked Mike how do we get all the reports, and he said we'll have to come there and inspect the property, and that's what we did. I thought that was a fire inspection and everything, all kind of inspection, once I let him in. So that's why I think there's a confusion where whether it was fire inspected or what was the inspection done.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so that sounds more correct interpretation, because she was there, I was not there, so she told me that Mike came to do.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, Bill.
No issues. So as we proceed, I do want you in your deliberations to consider Fair Street. Fair Street has many multifamilies. It has businesses on Fair Street, in that we propose no structural changes from a complex that's been in existence for 40 years. And so as a backdrop to any discussion about a variance, it's important that you note the neighborhood. On the issue of the law, in my memorandum of law, I talked to you about the office, about you can impose conditions, but you can't make them personal, and I think everybody knows that. And the case I cited was St. Ange, which says you can't limit the duration to a period of ownership. And they also say in another case, which was called Red Barn, it says if the variance is granted but an illegal condition is applied, the condition goes, but the variance stays. And so we stand here today with an office that, in my opinion, is legal. and we want to make it residential through your interpretive powers of 15647. It's probably fundamental to consider that if you have an office there, you'll have UPS trucks, you'll have customers, you'll have clients. You'll have a much more busy employees, much more busy site than you would if it was a studio apartment. Clearly more restrictive, clearly more in keeping with the neighborhood than an office. With the two-family structure, again, since '78, 15628 speaks to what I believe is my client's right to convert this. Again, I went over all of the requirements, and I believe that we comply with every one of them. I believe we have, as a matter of a right, to convert it, and I'm looking for your agreement through your interpretive powers. If you disagree and you want to hear use variance discussions, we're prepared to do that. We think they're all met as well. Most important criteria by case law has always been neighborhood. If you're changing the neighborhood, you're going to have a tough time getting a use variance. In this case, in this neighborhood where there's heavy traffic and where there's commercial users and multifamily users, where there's no structural changes, where there's a large parking lot, where there's town water and sewer, and in a complex that's been there for 40 years, I submit, as a matter of law, there are no changes in the neighborhood. Reasonable return. My client put together some numbers, first of all, on a sort of a P&L statement, and I'm going to hand it out to you guys and tell you that with 3 rentals, that is the barn, and the two-family, he is just breaking even. With the, I think that's enough. Why don't you take the keyboard?
Okay.
With the studio apartment, that would be money over and above his $46,000 year overhead for the place. And I submit that is a reasonable return. He also put together the cost to convert. The cost to convert would be considering all the consequences, lost rental, and that somewhere in the neighborhood of about $18,000. And then the reduction in the market value, he surmised to be about $50,000. So here you go, Sylvia. So I submit to you, reasonable return is governed by the amount of change you're proposing to the neighborhood. It's in case law that says my client's burden of showing hardship or reasonable return is reduced if you show that the neighborhood won't be changed. And there's a plethora of case law that speak to that very point. And we're not changing the neighborhood, the most important factor at all. Uniqueness is clear. This was a complex that was created in large part by the zoning board in 1984. It's a very unique application. There's hopefully 4 living units in a single complex, all residential, plenty of parking. It is a unique complex, and it won't result in people coming with similar facts to you. This is unique. With regard to self-created, my client purchased knowing that there were violations, but he made his offer at the courthouse steps not knowing. He thought he was buying something that was perfectly legal. And self-created is a factor or an element that sometimes the courts will look away from if there's good faith. So I'll conclude by telling you 2 different types of applications. One is for the office, and I'm looking for your powers pursuant to 15647 to permit this residential use, have another residential user, that being the studio, instead of the commercial office. And then with regard to the two-family house, 15628 speaks to it. I believe my client has the right to do it as a matter of law. And if you disagree, I believe we've met the use variance standards before you. keep in mind that whatever you do, we're going back to the planning board for site issues that might arise. And thank you for your attention.
So, Bill, it's a two-parter on the office again. First, we have to extend the incorrect variance, and then,
Yeah,
okay. I just want to make, because you sort of,
danced around it?
yeah, again, but we know we have to do it, so that's why.
That was done last time we were here in December.
No, this is about the office building now. We just have to, it's illegal because the board improperly ruled, right? Basically.
Conditioned.
Right, they conditioned it, because they conditioned it on the owner, not on the land. And
That's
it's always conditioned on the land. I think I've learned that now.
All right, so at this point, we'll open up to the board for questions, but I think, Greg, we'd have to interpret first.
There's a two-prong application, so the first branch of it is for an interpretation, and if that isn't granted, then you can consider the use variance.
That's on the two-family.
Right.
And then the interpretation on the office would
It's like
be
4 different things here.
that a residential use is more restricted.
More restrictive. Okay, so,
3 or 4 more things.
do you guys have any questions?
Correct.
No, I understood everything.
Right.
I'm fine.
Okay, Mark?
No questions.
Bill?
No question.
No questions, thanks.
As always, I have questions.
Speaking to the mic, young lady.
On this income and expense statement, cottage, what is the cottage referring to?
So that's the barn.
That's the barn.
That's the barn, which was converted to a single family unit.
So these two estimates that you submitted do not include the office space.
Right. Yeah.
Have you tried to market the office space?
I haven't, because we are going through this legal process, so, and it's not rentable at the moment because it doesn't have a bathroom. So once I complete this approval process, then I plan to build a bathroom, or if we get the approval for the studio, then I have to put in a kitchen there and a bathroom. So at this time, it's just used as a storage, it's not being used.
It's not rentable at this moment.
As an office or as a...
Correct. It is not dilapidated, and I'm not saying, it is 1970s paneling, green carpeting, and, I mean, that's a fair statement. It's not,
It's not
somebody wouldn't go in
rentable.
there, they would have to put a lot into it to rent it.
So the point is, do everything knowing what you're going to do with it.
Correct.
Have you looked at the rental income difference between an office and a studio?
Yes, I have. So I think the studio will pay a little bit more than the office.
The studio would get you more. I'm just curious, but now you have to put in a kitchen.
And a bathroom.
In either event.
Well, either way, you have to put a bathroom in,
I
I
have to put a
guess.
bathroom
But you
in
don't
either
have to,
way.
Right.
in an office, you don't have to put a kitchen in.
No.
So you're putting more money in for a studio than you are for
Yes, I am. So
office.
But to realize a better
But
return.
presumably, the rate of return you'd catch up.
Right.
Mr. Barnwell and I have had many conversations about what to do in this instance. And I told him that I thought this board would be better, feel better about this if it were completely residential. That a busy office, whether it's retail or commercial or what, would not play well, in my opinion, in the neighborhood or before this board. So I said, ask them for an interpretation to go the other way.
And I think the neighbors would prefer that.
I'm certain they would.
Where's the nearest commercial business to the property?
Right around the hairpin turn, there's a stucco or a Stowe,
Is it Montessori right across the street?
and there's a, thank you, there's a school right across the street. And then as you get further down Fair Street, there's a number of,
But it's mostly
That's
residential.
mostly residential.
It is.
And that's a gateway to a residential neighborhood in the back over there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rose, any more questions?
I think that's it.
So-
yeah, I would lean more towards a residential use anyway. It's just me. I'm one board member.
All right, so
You would say.
I guess we should break this up into the two interpretations, and that being the first one. Well, right?
When we-
Because you want us to interpret so you can
I'd
argue.
like the board to interpret that a residential use is more restrictive than the existing legal office use for the office building.
All right, Greg, we can do that without waiting till the end of the night. We could do that now.
Have you heard from the public? Have you closed?
Not yet.
No.
You don't have to, the procedure, you can do whatever you feel is
Okay.
appropriate, as long as you take.
So that said, I will open it to the public for any input or questions at this point, which I don't think there's anybody here. You guys are the next applications, so I'll look to the board to make an interpretation.
Do we have to close the public hearing first?
No, we do.
You close it to make any opinion.
You're gonna vote on it, whatever the relief is.
But he still is gonna argue
No,
based on
On
our interpretation, right, Bill? If
No.
you still want to argue if we interpret, depending on how we interpret it.
I mean, on the office, if you interpret as per my request, I'll be finished.
Okay, but we also have the second part that we need to interpret, that you may argue depending on how we interpret, so I really shouldn't close this.
I think the public hearing's closed. The process, you're gonna do the interpretations, and obviously if the relief isn't granted, then you could consider the variance application for the branch of the relief that hasn't been granted.
He already made his argument.
Yeah.
Use variance.
Put on
For
his
both.
presentation
He's
for
done
use
that,
variance,
so-
right?
He did both.
I'm okay with you doing it that way.
He asked for both sides.
All right, so at this point, I'll close the public hearing on this application. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So continuing with this case, then,
You want to do this now? Okay. Because they're here. Greg, do we need a motion to fix, first of all, that 1984 ruling? Or no?
You did that already at the December.
We did do that?
2016.
Right.
That was December
Oh,
meeting.
okay. No, I didn't think we did.
You did it on the barn.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
all right, so
Make sure we do it right.
number 2 on his application is, the applicant seeks a clarification of applicant's earlier application that the variance granted for an office use had an illegal condition in that it was improperly granted to the owner personally, and also the applicant seeks an interpretation that the proposed conversion to residential studio apartment is more restrictive and a legal commercial office use. So I will look for an interpretation to that effect or against that, or alternate to that.
You talking about just the office right now, or?
He's talking about getting rid of the mixed use.
Right. First, we're getting rid of the mixed use, so we're talking about the office right now.
By making it all residential on one lot, is that more restrictive than having partial residential and the commercial on the same lot? More restrictive meaning more in with our code.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I would make an interpretation
back
that
and do
a conversion of a retail or a commercial use into a residential use is more restrictive, is a more restrictive use.
So you review this, what they're requesting positively?
That doesn't mean anything on any other part of the application, but that's how I view the request.
That is my request of you.
Second.
So that's the motion. Okay.
All right, so we have a discussion? Roll call vote for the record. Mark?
I agree with Mike.
Mike, obviously.
For it, yeah.
Bill?
Agreed.
Phil? For the motion.
For the motion.
For the motion.
And I am also for the motion. So that that interpretation carries. Okay, so the second part of it, which is actually your first part of it, skipping over, but applicant seeks an interpretation pursuant to 15628 that the existing single-family dwelling can be converted to a two-family because all the criteria contained in that section are met herein. Or in the alternative, the applicant seeks a use variance to permit a two-family dwelling use in a single-family zone.
You want to go back?
So we need to interpret this.
Almost there.
I don't think your request meets these requirements, because the definition of a multifamily use is a three-family, right? Isn't it three family in one dwelling?
That's correct. It says
We don't have
any-
that.
It says any building housing 3 or more units.
And we don't have that in this instance.
We don't have anything to discuss multifamily. This doesn't speak to multifamily. It says an existing dwelling in an R zone.
Make it be converted to a multifamily use. And multifamily use is 3 or more.
Says two-family.
The application says two-family. You reading the code?
Well, if the definition Mike is using multifamily, the existing dwelling in our zone may be converted to a multifamily. I think in that context, it means a two-family or more. I can't imagine that they would allow it for a three-family, but not for a two-family. It doesn't make any sense.
That's how I view the code.
Definition. Are you looking for definition? You gotta go back one.
Yeah, the code says multifamily.
It says any building too, just so you. Oh,
Again, I'll ask the board to consider if there's ambiguity in the statute, it has to be construed in my client's favor.
I don't think the statute's ambiguous. I mean, I think you just don't meet the criteria here, the definition. That's my interpretation. I'm
Mike,
only
do
one
you-
member of this board.
Do you have that section handy? Maybe you can read to us?
Dwelling, multifamily, a building containing 3 or more dwelling units.
And the code specifically says multifamily developments and on-site accessory uses. Oh, boy. So I think we're forced to go down the use variance.
So if
path.
it doesn't carry us the interpretation, he made the argument, and then your next thing would be to vote for if it doesn't carry, and that's up to your board.
Right, for use variance.
Then he would have to do the use variance criteria.
All right, so,
Yeah, I
Mike,
was-
you're
I
making a
thought that was the
motion
way
that
to go anyway.
Yeah, I mean, just,
you
I'm
interpret
not
that
even,
this is not,
that this request does not fall within the definition of the code.
Do we need to,
Then you need to make an interpretation that it does not meet
Comply
this
with the code.
requirement.
and then go to
And
the
then
use
go
variance?
Then
on
we
to
go
the use
down the use
variance, which he
variance.
already made his argument on.
so do I have an interpretation?
I would make an interpretation that this request does not comply with the requirements of the code.
Okay, do I have a second to that?
Second.
But the section, in that interpretation that you're referring to is 15628B,
Yeah,
You have section 156-28 of the town code.
28B, yep.
20B specifically, but it still says multifamily there. That's a whole.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense that you can convert
I
a
know.
3 but not a 2. It makes no sense.
All right, so we have a second. We will-
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, Phil second.
All right, do I need the roll call? Silvio?
I'm in favor of the motion.
Rose?
For the motion.
For the motion.
Well, the interpretation.
For interpretation, sir.
What was the
Apologies.
motion?
Interpretation.
For it.
Right.
For the interpretation.
And I am as well, okay? So I would have to open this application back up for him to argue the use, right?
He did. No, he
Already
did.
did.
He
So-
gave us the financials.
Yep.
Okay.
He gave us everything else.
So we might as well argue this now. So the applicant seeks a use variance to permit a two-family dwelling use in a single-family zone. So go to the videotape with the use variance criteria. Must prove all of the following 4 criteria. Incapable of earning a reasonable return if used for any of the allowable uses. Dollar amounts must be shown, which they did provide for us this evening. Any argument or question to that?
No.
Property is affected by unique or at least highly uncommon circumstances,
I think that one wins.
right? Any argument or question? No. Will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. It's been that way since 74, I think Bill said.
78.
78. And number 4 is not self-created.
This is where you get me. I'm sorry, but I feel that this is a self-created harm here. You didn't do your due diligence before acquiring. I mean, it's been acknowledged. So I don't think you meet the last criteria.
Is the public hearing still open? Been asked.
No, we closed the public hearing. All right. Anybody agree or disagree, or any other thoughts?
Kind of agree with Michael, that you have to do your due diligence. It was a foreclosure. Because it's a foreclosure, you should be doing your due diligence, and because it's foreclosure, you got a better deal, or you got a lower price than what you'd pay on the open market. So you're gonna get a reasonable return, I think, if you rent it out as a one-family or a two-family, you're still gonna gain a return.
Okay, Phil, any
I think
input?
the self-created hardship issue is taken care of by counsel in his memorandum of law, especially with the case law that he's citing regarding good faith reliance of mistaken beliefs, where he quotes Woodstock case, or held where the petitioner did not knowingly acquire the property for a prohibited use. So I think it's close, but I believe that is not an issue. Just one vote.
Not self-created.
That it's not self-created.
I feel similar to Phil, because I don't know if due diligence would have uncovered this, especially since the unit itself was two separate, or the house was in two separate apartments. I don't know how that could have been.
See, I don't know how that works with an auction either. An
Yeah, that's what I'm
auction
saying.
is-
I don't know how that would be discovered, so I think there's a good faith effort there. So I lean towards saying that, in my mind, and again, I'm just one board member, he actually did meet that, because the building itself presented itself as a two-family.
Right, because it existed as such for
Right.
that long duration of time, almost
And that's the
40
way I
years.
read it.
You probably should go to the county and check
Here's
everything.
my-
You should go to the county if you're gonna buy a foreclosure and look up the records.
We did.
And what did the
No, it's
It's
closed to
not.
public. You can't-
It's not discussion time.
Yeah, we're done.
Sorry.
All right, so what do you guys think, Bill? Do you agree with that statement? I mean, you know of construction somewhat, and something comes up and,
If you're buying a house on foreclosure, you know, you're thinking more, it might be just a banking, you're not looking for all these kinds of violations.
right, especially if it exists,
It's pretty hard to run all those down.
if it existed
You
as
could take
such.
some steps, going to a building department, but you could be chasing them
Right.
forever. I don't think it's something he created for himself.
Mike, any thoughts?
I've already put my position out
Okay.
there, so, I mean, you know more.
And Mark?
I agree that it was not self-created. Agree with Phil's interpretation.
Right. And based on what you read, which was presented as memorandum of law, correct? Correct. Okay, so,
Did we ever get a motion or no?
No.
no, we interpreted first, now I look for a motion.
A motion to grant a variance to permit a two-family dwelling use in a single-family zone.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I'll do roll call vote. I'll start down here. Sylvia?
For the motion.
Rose?
Against the motion.
Bill?
For the motion.
Bill?
For the motion.
Mike?
Against.
Mark?
For. Motion.
Okay, and I'm for the motion, so it carries, and
Thank you very much.
good luck.
That was fun, guys. It was fun. We haven't had a good one in a while.
Okay, number 8 is Marianne and Ray Watson for a variation of 15615, seeking permission to construct a shed. The property is located at 238 West Level Street, Mahopac.
I remember.
All right, you guys are, state your names and address for the record.
Mary Ann Watson, 238 West Lovell, Mayapack, New York.
Raymond Watson, 238 West Lovell, Mayapack, New York.
Obviously.
Mahopac, excuse me.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, let us know what you're seeking relief on.
Well, I have 2 letters from our neighbors that are on either side of us.
Do you want me to read them for the record?
If not too winded.
No, they're not.
They're not. They're both pretty quick. Mayapack Zoning Board. My house is on 242 West Lovell. Our backyards are left and right of each other. Where they would like to place a shed almost back to back from our shed, shifted a little more to the right. We have no objection to my neighbors, Mary Ann and Ray Watson, on 238 West Lovell, seeking a variance to place an 8x6 shed as close as possible to property line. Severely cannot read that name.
That was Paul Hirschner.
Paul Hirschner. Okay.
I didn't know how to spell his last name.
To the zoning board, I, Paul
Just spell sack.
Paul Scaglione, I can't even, I'm Italian, I can't read it.
I couldn't either.
Residing at 234 West Level Street, live next door to Ray, Mary, and Watson. I have no problem with them building a shed on their line of their property. Respectfully, Paul.
Okay. I met you out there the other night. This is, obviously, when it's not built, we try to get this into close to conformance as possible. You know, I kind of walked it with you, and I kind of explained to you, you do have some room. I know you had some concerns about getting your tractor through.
But I have 4 dogs too, that what happens is that with skunks and stuff, I don't want them trapping it and them getting skunked, because
Okay.
it's happened to us before.
Well, we're not here to grant convenience.
No, I
We'll work with you as best as possible, but in my opinion, if you come 5 feet off the property line, you still have plenty of room, and it's somewhat back-to-back with the shed on your neighbor's property, and still gives you plenty of room for what you need to do. I don't know if anyone else was able to get out there and take a look at it.
No structure should be right against the property anyway.
It's not right
Say again, Mike?
against it.
A structure should not be right against the property anyway.
Right,
Property line, right.
Property line.
safety-wise.
But it won't be right against it. We're like asking for like at least 2 feet. So, because both of our neighbors on either side, because it's just coming out far, it's like an eyesore. So coming close to the property line, and we already have 2 sheds from our neighbors close to the property line, so I'm figuring it's not.
I'm sure they're not on the property line,
Well, the one is probably about a foot off the property line.
They are.
from what I could tell
It
from
says on the
site
on
map.
the, it says on the plan,
They're not
you placed that shed, that's not accurate.
I mean, I have pictures.
Can you give us 5 feet? Can you give us 5 feet?
I would think that it would be easier to get a dog.
Your neighbor is
In-
3.7 feet,
That's inaccurate, he replaced that shed since that survey was drawn. It's about a foot off the property line.
Getting a dog out of a
Then he's
5-foot
probably in
section is
violation.
easier than getting them out of a 2-foot section. You're gonna
Talking
trap,
about-
you're
Moving
gonna
them like those
trap, you're gonna trap them even more if they're in a
It's not-
2-foot section versus.
It's them going behind it.
Yeah, exactly. I think you would rather have, a skunk wouldn't feel as trapped in 5 feet than he would in 2 feet.
All right, there's no other property you can buy to bring it into conformance, right? There's no other property you can buy.
Oh, no. I mean,
Obviously,
shed down.
you're landlocked. All right. Down here, Mark, any questions?
I have the other shed. What?
I mean, we can only go on what's printed on our survey here, and I think it would be fair and reasonable to push it off the line at least the equivalent of the neighbor's shed, which
Right,
is
and
almost
then-
4 feet.
The shed is actually longer in line with the property, so the door faces the pool. It's a 8x6 as what's shown here. So I think that's gonna help if you
Here's
pull
my
it off
other
the line.
question too, is right next to where we want to put the shed a little back further is because on the side, I know this picture's far away, but on the side there, we have like a garden, and that's where before we bought the house, there was an existing shed there. So instead of placing a shed, because we didn't need one, we didn't have a pool at the time, we did a garden. So, and the sun comes that way, so you put it a little back further, it just gives, sorry about that, a little more light, sunlight.
Well, if we don't grant a variance, then you have to go 10 feet off. So you might want to negotiate with us a little bit.
Meet us
So we could
halfway.
say no.
Right, that can happen. That's been
So
known to
you may
happen.
want to open your mind up to negotiation.
All right, Mike?
I think requiring it to be 5 feet off is fair.
Bill?
I agree with 5 feet off.
Bill?
5 feet or nothing?
5 feet or nothing.
Yeah.
You heard the people.
Well,
All right,
I was just hoping that we
All right, any input from the public on this application?
I think he said
Okay. All right.
Do they have to amend the
Is that
application or no?
amending, or-
Or it's just based on our motion? Mike?
No, it's less restrictive. Mike, we don't have to amend the well, we do paperwork-wise, but they don't have to sign it because it's less restrictive.
Less restrictive, right.
Okay.
Anyway, as long as you do.
All right, so look for motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
We're
Wait a
gonna sign
second.
the DNO.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks. Thanks for being amenable.
Have a good night.
Good luck.
Enjoy your shed. I love sheds. I'm a
I
big
do
shed
too.
guy.
I love sheds.
People make fun of me on this.
All right, number 9 is ShopRite Carmel, looking for a variation of section 156-42B, 156-41C, 2 in parentheses, and 156-41C, 4 in parentheses, seeking to construct additions to the existing ShopRite supermarket associated with site improvements. Property is located 184 Route 52, Carmel.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Hey, how are you?
Members of the board, my name is Anthony Mollet. I'm here of counsel to Schaumburg, Marlboro, Hollis, and Drasack and Laidlaw.
Anthony, just, if anyone's going to be speaking, I might as well swear them all in collectively.
Absolutely,
And
please,
state their names for the records, please.
Elizabeth Manning from Lewis Sign Company.
Okay, it's just, I don't need your address because it's commercial property.
Good evening, Philip Greeley, Mazer Consulting, professional engineer, offices at 400 Columbus Avenue, Valhalla, New York.
Okay, thank you.
Dan Peverero, Laurel Group.
Okay. Collectively, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you, guys. Sorry, Anthony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate that. This is an application of ShopRite Supermarkets, Inc. I'm sure the board's aware of the ShopRite Plaza up on 52. It's located at 184 Route 52. The project consists of an expansion of the existing ShopRite store. The reasons for the expansion, which may be obvious to the board, is to better serve its customers, to remain competitive in the industry. It'll result in quite a bit of aesthetic improvement to the look of the building. That is the primary focus of that plaza. And the look of it will be improved as you travel into Carmel through Route 52. And it's to offer more choices and a better shopping experience to their existing customer base. The variances sought fall into 2 categories, parking and signs. There are 2 variances sought for each of those categories. For the parking, we're seeking a variance with regard to the number of stalls and the size of the stalls. I'll let the board know the size of the stalls that are proposed is the same as the size of the stalls that exist on the property now. And as you'll learn, are also consistent with the industry standard for the size of parking stalls. For the signs, we're seeking variances with regard to the size of these signs as well as the number of the signs. And again, there are more signs existing now than are permitted by the code. And the reason for some of these variances is simply that the building is expanding, and the town required the applicant to come and get some of these variances in relation to the expansion of the building, even though some of these variances have been granted in the past to some extent. Some of the variances we're seeking have been granted in the past, similar to what we're seeking now, such as the size of the parking stalls. Other variances have been granted in the past, similar to what we're seeking now, but not exactly the same. And that's all noticed in our application. So with regard to the factors, I'll just run through the factors briefly with the board before fielding questions with the consultants. There'll be no undesirable change in the neighborhood if the variances were granted. The use is permitted. There are no residential properties negatively impacted by the proposed development. The store in the plaza has existed, obviously, for a number of years. The expansion will better serve the community and will improve the exterior aesthetics of the plaza. And the variances that we're seeking are consistent with the prior variances granted as well as the current existing conditions on the property. We also submit there'll be no adverse environmental impact. Again, the variances sought here are not related to the actual extension of the building, which is conforming to zoning. They only relate to the signage and the parking. So it's asserted that the expansion of the building will be reviewed is being reviewed and has been reviewed for quite some time by the planning board, and they will review and require the applicant to make any accommodations with regard to environmental impacts, which we've worked with the planning board up to this point on for quite some time. The planning board had us reach a certain point in the application before they referred it to the zoning board. So most of those issues have been completed to the planning board's satisfaction. We assert the variances are not substantial. With regard to the parking stall size, again, it's consistent with the existing size and consistent with the prior area variance. It's consistent with the industry standards for parking. And it's a very minimal variance. I mean, 9 by 18 as opposed to 10 by 20. It's a 2 square foot per parking space variance. With regard to the number of stalls, that amounts to a variance of 23% in terms of what the code requires and what the applicant is able to provide. And it's important to note that the resulting impact of expanding the store, which ShopRite's done in a number of locations. We worked on one in Warwick, and they've done some closer to this area as well. It doesn't typically result in an expansion of their customer base. It may result in increase in revenue from the existing customers, but people are typically, for lack of a better term, married to the store they go to already. This is to keep the customers in this store and to compete with the other stores that offer kind of higher-end products and more of a gourmet or what have you section of the store to provide that service to its existing customers. So it's not anticipated that the expansion, and it has been ShopRite's experience, that the expansion would result in an increased need for parking. Customer may spend more time in the store, but there typically aren't more customers coming to the store. With regard to the signage, the factors to consider with regard to the signage and whether the variance is substantial are the size of the building, the fact that this is part of a larger plaza. The signs are both informational and directional, as well as serving the purpose of informing consumers where the ShopRite is located. ShopRite, as you can see, is located a significant distance from the roadway, which requires the signs to be of a certain size and a certain number of signs to accomplish their intended purpose. So in that regard, we assert that the signage variances are not substantial. The need for the variances cannot be obviated. It's not feasible to expand the store without these variances. In fact, these variances are necessitated by the very fact that we're expanding the store. And the difficulty was not self-created. The lot is what it is. The applicant is a lessee of space in the plaza. This property is a design shopping center pursuant to the town code. So the parking is really, I mean, we talk about the parking in front of ShopRite, and the applicant did all it can do to provide as much parking in front of ShopRite proper as possible, but the code takes into consideration the overall parking as compared, or as required by the overall square footage of the plaza. That's how it's calculated.
So are you taking more land?
That's what I was going
to create these parking spots, or?
No, we're not taking, the site is the site. Our client is, the applicant is a lessee of this portion of the site. And they're expanding the building outward toward, along to the left, on the existing site. There's no purchase of property or expansion of the lot line or anything of that nature.
So how are you creating more parking spots is my question, without taking?
Well, I'll let the consultants explain how the parking was calculated when we get into that.
Actually,
Which we can do if you have.
spots for the site.
Well, there's no parking
No,
now
there's
on
no
that
parking,
side.
right, yeah, you're
It's
right.
all parking's in the
Yeah,
front.
let me have, address the parking.
Okay. I didn't mean to interject if you have
No,
more
no, that's
to
fine,
speak
that's
about.
fine.
So maybe that's a good segue if you're going to speak on that.
Much of the front parking field right now, some of it's 9 by 18 stalls, but some of it is also 10 by 20, sort of a mixed bag. So we're making them all uniformly 9 by 18.
Okay.
So we're picking up some stalls in areas.
So via restriping and consolidating.
Right, reconfiguration of a couple of end islands.
Just state your name for the record.
yes.
Sure, Dan Peverero.
Thank you.
All right, because we went through a roll before. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
No, they film this and the secretary takes minutes off of it, so.
So, yeah, through restriping and the reconfiguration of a couple of end islands, that's how we're getting the number of stalls.
Okay, and
That new land.
cars today are much smaller than the old Cadillac days of the 70s, and so more sleek and as accommodating. Okay.
Right, and a number of the existing stalls are already 9 by 18. We're just sort of making it uniform throughout the
Understood.
ShopRite parking field.
Okay.
Is that only in front of this store, or are you reconfiguring the other parking spaces in front of the other stores down the?
From this island here, that sort of, if you, I don't know how familiar
from
you are
the Rite
with
Aid
the
corner?
shopping center. Right, from
So it's
the right
whatever's
of the
bold on your drawing that,
Right, correct.
You're not configuring anything else further
Yeah,
down.
the ones down by past everything, they're not reconfiguring any of that.
They're not
Which are huge, actually.
But those aren't really the ones that the planning board was concerned with. If you go grocery shop, you're not gonna park down there, is what they were kind of saying.
Okay. And then the extension of the store itself, is that gonna be, shoppable, or is that for storage and whatnot?
It's, some of it is back of house, but most of it is shoppable area with aisles. But
So for consumer use and
Right.
what have you, okay. All right, do you have anything else to add, or?
It's all parking spaces, it's not any trees or shrubs or anything like that, it's just parking spaces?
in terms of
The islands.
Any landscaping
Any
or
islands, landscaping within?
Planning board did discuss with us landscaping that would be required for the site, yes.
What about relocation of any streetlights?
Lighting plan?
First, so this is the landscape plan. We are adding some trees to some of the end islands. I think
Dan, I'm sorry, just try to speak into
My
the mic
apologies,
as best as possible.
we are adding some trees and shrubs into the parking field. We added some trees up along the road that sort of goes behind the shopping center and up into that
Hillcrest.
residential area behind.
Okay.
Right now, there isn't too much out there, but we're adding where we can. And then
And in front of the store is going to be reconfigured to make it much more pedestrian-friendly, going into the parking lot. Through the entranceway to the store, it'll have more than one entranceway. Saying the front area of the store, I just want to explain how that's been redesigned to accommodate pedestrians.
first, I think I heard a question about lighting. There is one light that's getting slightly moved just because one of the end islands got adjusted.
All right, that's what I
But
thought.
by and large, the lighting is pretty similar to what's out there today. And then, as Anthony was just saying, so part of the re-imaging of the store is that this vestibule is getting added to the front of the building. So the doors on the front of the vestibule sort of spread out the load of the pedestrians and the vehicles. So you get a much more economical use of the spaces, whereas, there's one door now, I think it's over here, and if you draw a circle around that, imagine a circle, those stalls that are in that circle are sort of where everyone wants to park. Now you get two circles.
So you're adding more entry and egress, which is actually.
Right, there are two doors that go into the vestibule, and then a door that enters sort of into the store from the vestibule. But your aiming points as a customer would be one of these two doors into the vestibule.
Okay.
How about utilization? As far as parking spaces are concerned, you're reducing the number, so is there enough spaces?
Just state your name again, please.
Philip Greeley, Mazer Consulting. We're actually increasing the number of parking spaces. I think we picked up around 10 parking spaces. We did a parking utilization study to see what the actual usage was on the site. And in our report, we provide the details of that. We did make some recommendations to pick up the additional spaces in more proximity to the store, which Dan's plans now reflect. And we picked up about 10 spaces in a closer proximity to the store. Our parking utilization study looked at the entire site, not just this area, but the cinemas near Rite Aid. So we really saw where people were parking, and of course, the highest usage is up at ShopRite, as it's been. But we're picking up about 10 more spaces in that area.
Are they open 24 hours?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other
Thank you.
questions? Yeah. Thank you.
All right, parking traditionally is not that big of an issue through this board unless you're looking for something less than what you're already asking for. I think what's gonna come down to some negotiation here is signage. In our tradition, you're looking for a lot, so we usually like to pare this down. We understand you're the anchor store, you're the main hub there, but in my mind, these are very extreme percentages that you're looking for. So what we've done, I think with the Stop and Shop in Mahopac here, we did go through a couple of reiterations and brought the percentages down to what was agreeable.
And eliminated some signs, too.
Yes. So, if you guys are,
Signs.
yeah, if you guys are ready to chat about that.
Yeah, the signs would be great. So just from an obvious standpoint, and I understand the board's willing to work with the applicant, and the applicant's certainly willing to work with the board on this as well. But obviously, the code requirement of 40 square feet for a building of that size set back from the roadway as far as it is would really, I think we can all agree, accomplish.
We understand that. It's, you know, each case is judged on its own merits, and you do have some unique circumstances here. I think for the pylon sign that came through years ago, we made some changes and, you know, ceded some rights.
Is there any kind of sign closer to the road that will say ShopRite?
There is one,
There is one, okay.
yeah, but we're not adjusting that,
Right.
at least my company is
Yeah,
not.
Do you want to state
But
your
that-
name for
that's
the record
existing
again?
now. right?
Elizabeth Manning, Lewis Sign Company.
There are a few signs that I think could be eliminated, from what I can tell, right off the top. Welcome signs, I mean, if we want to try and reduce welcome signs, maybe can go.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking at,
I think
too.
they're redundant because
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know your store is there. Most of the people know the brand and.
try and eliminate somewhere. Let's start with welcome.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they do indicate the entrance. I mean, historically, they would use the word entrance, but they just changed it recently to welcome, thinking that there was a more friendly word to use, but it seems that that's a necessary thing to point people to the door.
Well, if you're, you know, the other gentleman there said you're going to have repeat customers, you're not looking at new customers. I think after the first time they visit the store, they're going to know where the entrances are. That's just me. That's the way I look at it.
And typically, it's a busy store, so you'll see where everybody else is walking, and you'll
Right.
know where to go.
Right.
In other municipalities, sometimes those aren't even counted as signs. They're just considered directionals. So
Can you stick that on the door?
I could check with the
If you put it on the,
management.
if you put it on the glass of the door, it does not count as a sign.
I can,
What about the glass of a window?
Same.
Same thing?
So the window nearest to where the door entry is,
You put them alongside the doors.
with even an arrow or something, or a small arrow indicating that that's the entrance.
So you've already gotten rid of 3 signs in almost 21 square feet.
3 signs?
Yeah, 3 welcomes.
It's 3 welcomes, one over
3
each entrance.
welcomes.
Yeah, there's one on the side too, Phil.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Consider a sign?
This over here.
Otherwise, everybody put their hours. We'd have to count every hour sign and every
not advertised
open
that.
sign.
Yeah, right.
You can't.
You can't do
change
that.
them, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta-
They have the open on one side and close on the other. You measure it twice.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like your window design is a clear story type with an upper quadrant. Maybe that's the ideal place to put a window film or applique.
I can take that suggestion back to the management.
Okay.
The circular ShopRite sign that you're proposing, is that any different than the one that's there now, size-wise?
Yes, the one that's there now, I believe, is 11 feet in diameter, and this new suggested size is 8 feet.
Thank you. Smaller.
Right, because you're going more on the script that's across the main part of the building. That's the draw. That's the big sign.
Right, but I think it's architectural too, because it looks like it's sized to fit almost
In that
central
area.
to that.
No, I'm agreeing. I'm just saying that's
Architectural
the
element.
draw.
That's made for it. Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like there's 2 circular signs on a corner.
Yes, you can't see them both at the same time. One is facing the street, and the other one is on the side of the building.
Isn't
It's on the right side.
Yeah, you'll see from the park one coming up.
Yeah.
Well, we've done renovations of ShopRites, a lot of them. And we recently did a very nice one in Warwick, New York. And it was a similar situation where part of the building faced 90 degrees, another little parking lot. I brought pictures to show that it's kind of a standard design.
So it's drawing people from the other part of the complex, but I don't think it needs to be as big as
Yeah, it could be
what's shown. I think we can scale that down somewhat.
You don't need really the one on the front if you have the one here and you got shop.
They're all the same.
This
See, look at
is
them all,
on
they're all the
that
same.
that elevation.
This is the side, right, but that's the front.
See, I don't mind this one.
Yeah, this sign's in the
Yeah,
front, and
I
that's
don't
on
mind
the
that
right
welcome
side.
sign
of that
either.
same
It's a nicer
elevation.
You're having that one,
Like,
but why do you need that when you
the
have shop
problem
right
is,
right across?
otherwise made to
Well, they
look
have
like
this one now.
colonial, like it's,
Right.
you know,
It's
this
getting
one's
bit
looking
from
like it's,
And that may be code for
11
their
square,
town, too.
Yeah, this one's much
It's
more
reducing
attractive.
down to
Down to 8, but they're adding this.
When somebody sends me
I don't think they need that.
I don't like that, though, but that's my taste.
I think you need to maintain that for business, fresh off the street. The one on the right
I'm
side,
not looking to pick up no
I
business.
don't think you need it, but it helps signify that it's there. It doesn't need to be as big. I'm thinking, I mean, just my opinion, but, because people are still identifying with the color and the logo.
How much signage do we have now? How many square feet do we have at this point?
148 square feet.
And so you're looking for 900 square feet from 100?
No, total of
473 plus 433?
No, 433 is the variance. That's
Right, yeah, okay,
473
okay.
minus 40.
Right. Provide 473, so four, but we only have 133 now?
148.
148. So you're looking at 3 times the amount of signage,
Two.
right?
Yeah.
3 times the amount, over 3 times the amount of signage than what we have now. So we gotta cut it back some,
the 3 welcome signs are
20
like
feet,
20 feet.
Yeah.
it's not a lot.
That's why they're so easy to get rid of.
Well, you
How
have-
big is that ShopRite, the script sign that you gave us in Warwick?
It's the same. They're the
Same
same.
size?
It's 8 feet tall, and the medallions are also 8 feet in diameter.
Not that big, really.
It's going to be backlit?
The one in Warwick, well, that was a halo lit one, yes. But we're proposing a channel letter style for Carmel.
Yeah, I think we could scale that down, too. I mean, just judging from the elevation in the drawing, it looks like it could come down somewhat. We got to try to bring this into some kind of fair agreements here. So why don't we start with, it's obvious you're going to have to come back, right? Because you have to go back to somebody else
Right, I don't have the authority to agree to.
on the welcome signs. And I think the bottle return sign, right, you can almost do that on that elevation, that window elevation. So that'll help minimize these numbers.
Yeah, let's see if we
You
could,
put pharmacy on the window.
Let-
Gotta come back, there's just
There's
too
a
much
lot.
here. 3 times the amount of signage than we have now is a lot.
yeah.
Can they put an apartment in? That'd be okay.
I don't know if pharmacy, you're looking to center that in,
Dan Peverero. I believe the pharmacy sign is required by law with a pharmacy within. That's why you always see it like CVS pharmacy within. I think that sign is actually a
Yeah,
requirement.
they do have to have something.
and there's one existing now, too, I think, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's not very big, it's only 11 feet.
that's fine.
Right, I think we can bring it, obviously, they're gonna need some sort of variance, but I think we could scale this down to the main ShopRite sign, the descriptive sign,
Can
can
come
be
down
brought
a little
down.
bit. And
You're
the
already bringing
circle
down the
sign
circle
on the side.
sign from what you have now. The one on the right side, I know it's nice to have to identify the entrance from people coming from the other side of
From
the
the movie
parking
theater, right.
shopping complex, but I think that could be scaled down considerably.
What variance was already granted for this? Do you know?
Yes, there was a variance done about 9 years ago for the pharmacy sign, just to mount it.
Same size as what you're doing?
Let's see.
Because if that's the case, you take that number off the square footage here.
Actually,
it's already there.
The variance,
The additional freestanding sign, additional building mounted sign.
yeah, and that pharmacy sign at the time was like a 34-foot variance.
Square?
Granted, yes.
Okay.
It says an additional
Then you take
34
that
feet,
number
right.
off of here if they already got it. And
Yeah.
just so you know, that's not going to be, you don't need to go for the same number again if you're doing the same size sign.
We don't know what the number's not on here.
Yeah.
On the deal.
I could check
But you're
that
saying you
for
have 148 total signage, square footage. I believe that's what you said.
Yes.
So if
So
they
that's
got
what we have to-
148, now they're looking for example, 192, you would only do the difference, is what the variance is now, not the total. Again, they already got part of it, so.
Right, because they have the 148, or
That's
whatever,
correct.
whatever the number is existing.
That's
We're
correct.
going on top of that.
That's
Right,
correct.
Right, okay. So the math's a little different.
And then you would say as submitted, so that this way it's for that plan that was submitted to.
The Warwick scripted sign doesn't have like an underline like the one you're proposing. Is that, could that make a difference by getting rid of that underline?
Not really.
No, 'cause it's square.
It's just been a change in design. They don't do the underscore anymore.
We wouldn't measure it that way
I
anyway.
understand, I'm just trying to think of
Yeah,
it.
it's the smallest rectangle to encompass the sign.
Right.
It would help, but
I don't know. Oh, yeah, it would.
brings it
Because,
down.
yeah, because it brings it, it's a little longer.
if you look at here.
Right.
Oh, but you're not proposing that.
No,
Well, I'm
they
looking
don't,
at
and
this,
I
too.
asked Susan,
I'm looking at that.
but she said
But the underline's gone now? That's the new,
So
The
you're
line's
staying
gone.
with this,
Added.
not with what's shown
Not-
on the elevation?
not this.
Okay.
actually, we got it then. Okay.
All right,
And that sign in itself is 331 square feet, that's what I'm saying. You bring that down to 250 or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
Meet us a little bit here. I think that's gonna help you, I mean, you, obviously, you wanna go for as big as you can, but we gotta be fair here. Right, and I understand it. I think you could still make that happen if it's represented properly in this elevation that I'm looking at that was submitted. So, I mean, would you guys be, and again, you probably have to go back to somebody, but I think we'd be looking for like somewhere around
Yeah.
280 square feet for that sign.
Okay.
Obviously, that's your main sign. I'm assuming you guys are considering that your main sign.
Yes, that's right.
Right, because you're minimizing the already approved circle sign from 8 feet
50 feet
to, or
less.
11 feet to 8 feet in diameter. So now let's talk about that one. Can we reduce that? Will that still work? And
The one on the side or the one on the
Get rid
front?
of the
The
one on the
one- the
side.
one
and
in
keep
the
the one
front.
Oh, both, okay.
Or vice versa.
you have that now as the building exists, so obviously you want to keep that as your signature draw. But right now, it's what, 8 feet in diameter?
Yes.
So if we brought that down to 7 feet, it's still going to be significant enough to sit on that precipice or that elevation of the gabled roof section. And that would minimize some square footage. What do you guys think? 7 feet?
That's
I mean,
fine.
it's being fair.
That's fine.
Bottle return sign? We say
The bottle return sign, I recommended going on the glass, like Mike suggested as well.
Like with the welcomes, and that'll reduce some additional. Pharmacy stays. No
The
problem.
size of the pharmacy, is that,
Let me see that again.
Let's see, it's a lot smaller than the existing one.
It's 11 feet, it's a foot by 11 feet.
And it's non-illuminated.
4 foot by 11 feet?
Correct.
Yeah, it's not illuminated, it's just
I'm fine with it the way it
And you
is.
have department within is going to be part of that sign?
smaller, yeah.
Yes, that's regulated by state
All right.
law.
I think that,
I don't have a problem
that's a
with that
fair
sign.
statement. And then the sign, the circular sign on the side. Getting there. Is it here?
It would be the same size as this. That's an 8-footer.
Yeah,
That's
it's the same,
another
it's the
8-footer.
same size as
Right,
this.
so maybe
Ross.
you make it 4-foot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you make it smaller, you still know, you recognize the colors and the picture of, the pictograph of the shopping cart. As a repeat customer, you're gonna know it's there. As a new customer,
This one.
you're leaving the movies, or you could see it from there, and
He's not.
you're still gonna identify
I'll
with
see
it.
him driving in.
I understand, but we're trying to,
Basically,
we're trying to
for
meet
foot yeah, it's only for foot traffic from people that are
on the other part of the complex.
down the complex. It's not really much more than that.
So, which one is that?
That's R7. R7.
That's on the side here.
That's here, yeah.
What'd you want to do with that, eliminate it or
So it's
reduce it?
8 feet diameter.
4 feet?
You bring it down to 4 feet.
That would actually probably look better too, because that's an awfully big,
That'd be a big bright light.
yeah,
Yeah.
on the field that's there.
Also the size of
The box.
Yeah.
the size of that square.
Yeah.
How small do you want that circle in the big square there? You want it to be somewhat proportionate to be aesthetically pleasing, not necessarily.
No, agreed. Agreed. But I think it's too big the way it is now, because you really don't see the
It's
square.
almost the entire thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got to bring that down.
And then you have a welcome sign underneath that as well. I don't know,
I don't know how we'd handle that one, because there's
you
no,
look like you have clear story glass above the door, entry doors, which may be the only problem is that's under an overhang.
yeah, you're not going to see it.
It may be dark.
But then again, you're getting you there is that circle. It gets you there.
How big is that welcome sign that's in Wallkill?
I think they're all comparable to what we're
7.
proposing for Carmel. 1 foot high.
7 feet long,
7 feet long?
about.
I mean, I can understand it on this elevation because it's, if you moved it to the glass back behind, it's not as pronounced. Whereas these are, if we move these welcome signs on the glass, you could still see them from a distance. It's flush. Right, this is more, as you can see, the door set back further. Right. So, I would say it would be okay to leave that one there. It's, what, 6.8 square feet?
Oh, leave that one welcome sign on the other
On the
side?
side?
Right.
That one.
All right, so
Leave R8.
let's run these down. R1, the bottle return, we're gonna see if we can get that on the glass. R2 welcome sign is, which one?
Put that on the glass,
Right, that one as well as the,
as well as R6.
right, we're gonna try to get on the glass.
I think that was it.
R3 is the ShopRite script.
Try to make it smaller.
We're gonna minimize that to,
280.
I think we said 280 square feet would seem fair. R4 pharmacy department within.
Okay.
I think
No change.
we all agree that that's a necessary size. R5, the ShopRite logo medallion, that's the big one in front, or no, that's,
Yeah, those are the
Yes.
front ones.
so we're gonna reduce that to 7-foot diameter. R6 welcome sign is going to be on the glass. Or we would like to see it on the glass. R7 is the ShopRite logo medallion from 8 feet diameter. We're recommending 4-foot diameter.
And you could have the welcome.
And the R8 welcome in that location will stay, no change. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys are capable of doing the square footage calculations quickly. I mean, you got a calculator?
The good thing is it's just a rectangle, so you don't have to do any circles. You just put a box around it.
No, that I understand, but
No, but I didn't know if they,
pi r squared, I always had
Yeah, we
difficulty
can do
with.
Yeah.
mean, I just want to go back to the poll, to poll the board. Does that seem like these are fair?
I think it's a fair compromise.
It's fine.
This usually is a one.
Back to the parking issue.
I think we
Anybody have
can
any
vote on the
questions or
parking tonight.
concerns? No. Okay, just to, because I know we have another applicant tonight.
Can we do parking?
We could do parking tonight, right? We could split this up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, is it one applicant?
Split up the decision?
Yeah.
No.
No?
Yeah, I didn't think we.
It's all on one.
Well, the fact that you guys have to come back, I mean, obviously, so we'll hold it over at this point. But just for the record, if you can quickly do some calculations and get us the square footage.
And then when you have the square footage official, you're gonna come back to me with the application. I'll initial it, and then we'll put that in the paper with the changes, because it's less, so you won't have to
So you wanna do
notice
7,
everybody. You'll just have to
300.
just change it, whatever goes in the newspaper. Correct?
We're getting an estimate of
351.8.
The caveat that was done with my iPhone, so I apologize if it's incorrect.
What do you have a variance for?
Siri, what is the?
The existing, we have 148 square feet of sign right now.
Variance, that's what the variance was for? The existing variance?
Well,
They don't have
9 years ago, we got a variance of 34 square feet to add the pharmacy sign.
Okay, so it's in there somewhere.
It's in that 148 number?
Yes, that's included.
Okay, so you're going from 148 to 350, which is less than 433. Oh, no, 473 is what you're providing.
Right.
So those numbers seem fair.
Yeah.
Again,
Considering the number of signs, absolutely.
Yeah.
and the size of the building being the anchor to this property. Okay? All right, so represent that in your paperwork for next month. Carry this over. We're obviously going to have a meeting next month. We'll
want me to
figure
see
that out later, guys.
Yeah, we gotta figure out when that's gonna be, right?
Well, we usually, we have
See
to
you on
figure it out.
Thursday.
Depends on how many applications we have coming in front of the board. We typically pass Thanksgiving because our meetings are the fourth Thursday of
Thanksgiving.
every month, and that's right when Thanksgiving is this year. So sometimes we'll do one meeting in the early part of December to pick up, but depends on how many applications come in, so we'll know next week when we see what's in front of us, okay? But I thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
All right, I'll look for a motion to hold this application over.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Good night, guys. Last but certainly not least.
All right, number 10, Durkin Water Realty Easter Seals for variation section of 156-39.2C, seeking to construct an outdoor play area that cannot meet the 50-foot setback from outdoor play area to rear lot line and 15-foot landscape buffer from outdoor play area to rear lot line. The property is located at 97 Old Route 6, Carmel, New York, 10512. You are? State your name
Good
and...
evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve Spina from JMC. We're the site engineer.
Good evening, Steve.
Good evening.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes.
What help you got?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm here tonight with the applicant Jay Firetag of Easter Seals and our attorney Darius Shefazada of Harris Beach. And we're here to request respectfully 2 variances for an outdoor play area necessary for a daycare center to reoccupy some vacant space in the existing building. And the first board I have here is just an aerial photo just to give a little frame of reference of the project site. The building was constructed in the late 90s. It was an approval from 1998. And the project site is bordering Old Route 6 and Route 6. And the building here is an existing office, warehouse, and retail. And it's surrounded by some parking and an access driveway. Main access is off of Old Route 6 here. And what we're proposing is there's a flat lawn area in the rear that is well situated for an outdoor play area for the children, for the daycare center. And I'll show you the plan now. This is a zoom in of the building. Here's old Route 6 again, and Route 6 kind of up here. And as I was discussing, the outdoor play area is situated back here in the corner of the property. It's pretty much the only location on the site that's not developed right now with parking or a building. It's a nice flat lawn area that we believe was conducive for an outdoor play area. We have requirements for size, and the daycare center would have 20 children, and the requirement for the outdoor play area is 200 square feet per child, so 4,000 square feet. So we located it back here. In between these existing trees, there's an existing foot trail to the county bicycle trail here and walking trail. So some of the public kind of park here and access it through a gate. So it's a proposed recreational area next to an existing recreational area. And there'll be a handicap accessible ramp. This area here is about 4 feet higher than the parking area. It's flat here, but it's like a plateau raised above the existing parking back here. So we have an ADA accessible ramp and a striped crosswalk just to get the children to the tenant space that the applicant wishes to reoccupy here. There's also a bus drop-off and a sign just to designate, for other traffic that this is where the children are picked up and dropped off in the morning and in the afternoon. We're also proposing a wooden enclosed trash, a dumpster enclosure. Right now, there's a few dumpsters that are just kind of sitting, out on the parking lot pavement. So we would kind of tuck those in the back and put them in an enclosure. And lastly, what we're proposing is just to bring the site up to code in terms of the required number of ADA parking spaces and some new signage and striping that complies to the new regulations as well. And just to recap, the two variances that we're asking for would be a 50-foot rear setback here, where we're only 5 feet from the property line with the outdoor playground. And kind of goes hand in hand with it. The next variance is there's the 15-foot landscape buffer requirement, and since we're only 5 feet from the property line, we can't comply with that in the rear here as well. So those are the two variances that we would need to construct the play area.
You're still putting a buffer in there, correct?
There is a small buffer. There's 5 feet between.
But I'm saying you're going to put plantings in
Like
there.
shrubs or something.
You're going to separate it so that they're not, people on the bike path aren't going to have direct access to see what's inside here.
We thought about a few different options. We don't want to do shrubs because of the small space between the two fences. It'd be just very tough to maintain them, both maintaining the fences and the shrubs. So what we're going to do, what we propose to do would be the back portion of the play area would be a 6-foot high solid stockade wood fence. So you'd have your existing 6-foot high chain link fence that's on the property line up for the bike trail, and then you'd have 5 feet of
In
lawn,
addition to the fences there
and
now.
then another big fence that, so people couldn't see the kids, and the kids couldn't be distracted or anything.
I think that is a concern because of
Right.
would-be predators or what have you.
Right,
I mean,
Right.
so the whole play area is fenced off individually as well, right? The whole rectangular shape?
Yes, that's correct. The other 3 sides here would be a 4-foot high wooden fence that's kind of like a picket style fence where the kids could see through it, just so it doesn't feel as much like a pen. Would still have that open feel at least on 3
But
sides.
it's still secure for children not to wander off into a parking lot and.
Right.
Is there a gate to that entry coming in?
Yes, so there's a gate here on top of the ADA ramp. At the top, it'll have, it'll be a self-closing gate with a hinge that would shut. And the children would be obviously supervised by the
That was my next
teachers.
question. There's obviously more than ample parental.
Yes. There's certain
Coverage or
requirements
teacher,
for state
right, okay.
licensing where it's a certain number of kids per teacher. And then, and they're little, they're 3 to 4-year-olds, pre-K,
They love being penned in.
You don't think an arborvitae or something like that would be good to put in there to just break up that wall of
I mean, I guess so. It
See,
couldn't, it couldn't
arborvitae,
hurt,
you could get
but
that
they-
only like a 2-foot spread, you know what I mean? You can get some
Right.
that are tall, but only not so thick.
Right, I mean, you certainly, we could find a columnar type of a shrub that would just grow up and not really out. But usually they do kind of get, you know, at least a 4 feet wide, and, you know, it'd be a little tough back there,
Vince,
but
at
it's
the-
certainly, it's not out of the question that you
The
couldn't
architectural
do that.
consultant is looking into this per Harold's request from the planning board.
Okay.
So this is something, right? You guys knew that?
Yes, yeah,
Ah,
I
well,
should have
that'll
mentioned,
be,
we've been,
if you
that'll be
condition it-
approached by the
Correct,
planning
but if
board.
you guys need, if you don't think that, or if you want the arborvitae, you can request it also, just so you know. I'm just.
Okay.
and the applicant
They did
will,
say handle it.
the applicant's fine with proposing, some.
I think it's a better look for them anyway. I mean, to have something green there than just a stockade type of
Just
fence.
fence and then another fence.
I mean, another option could be to do some kind of ivy that grows on the fence that is green yet, but you'd have to have a certain, you know,
Water.
pressure-treated type of
Yeah.
lumber or material.
Or PVC or something, right, I think probably the shrubs would probably be better than, right?
Yeah.
And the shrubs, I think would provide better screening than ivy, you know.
Okay, just a suggestion. All right, so just take us through how, from the back of the building, that's a whole just striped walkway?
Yes, so right now, there's a one-way traffic pattern going from right to left here, and there's angled parking back there. So in order to get the children safely to the play area, we wanted to put a striped crosswalk, and, you know, obviously the children will be walked, you know, with their teachers across the parking lot. And, you know, we've also designated the bus drop-off area too, which was part of the requirement for the daycare center. And we feel that it's, you know, it's not a heavily traveled access driveway. It's the rear of the building. Basically, just some employees will be parking there, and they'll know it's a daycare center. They'll see it all the time, so they'll know to, you know, watch out for the kids
And there'll be signage and speed bumps and things like that put in?
Well, there's no speed bumps anywhere. I mean, we have the sign here for drop-off area, and what the school does is they usually take those mobile ones where it's like a stop sign or a pedestrian crossing sign on a cone, and they'll lay those out, you know, when they know they're gonna bring the kids out. So they'll have that, and then they'll take them away when, you know, after they bring the kids to the play area.
What other tenants are gonna be there?
Well,
Or
the existing tenants
occupiers.
there now, there's a warehouse, storage area over here, there's a Sprint parts retailer, there's a nail salon over here, there's a vapor shop,
Right.
and I think that's it, there's a few,
Okay,
a
just
few vacant.
When I was there the other night looking at the property, there were some kids skateboarding, like older teens, it looked like. I don't know if they were employees to one of the stores or, I mean, not that we can control it, but just as a friendly heads up, I don't know if that's gonna be dealt with. If you're gonna speak, come on up, I gotta swear you in, I'm sorry. Oh, you're an attorney?
No, no,
Okay.
I'm
You can still talk. All right, just state your name for the record.
Jay Fire Tag.
Okay.
And, oh, sorry.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. They're pre-K kids, and it runs a regular school operation. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Pre-K, so it's 9 to 3, so that we don't have evening hours, we don't have weekend hours.
Okay, yeah, that makes me feel a little better. It just,
Although you gotta worry about vandalism if those kids are there, and you have that now, so you just gotta be careful about that, too.
yeah, well, I think the nature of the whole complex will change once you guys take over.
Would be the case, too.
Because this is Easter seal, so the kids more challenged physically,
This is a special, this is pre-K program for special kids, yes.
so kids may have a tougher time crossing, or it might take them a few minutes longer to cross. What I'm thinking is, if somebody's late for work coming around that turn,
Planning board handled that when they said that they would be putting up either a guard or a cone or something when they're gonna cross. I think that came up at our
Yeah.
And that would be for
planning.
them, not for us.
They had some sort of an idea for that, because they
Speed
did.
bumps are not a
because
bad idea.
All buses
Yeah,
exit
speed
on the right side, so they were trying to figure out a way to get it to the right, but then they would end up, if they pulled to the front of the store, so they'd be on the right, then they'd have to actually do a turnaround, which would have been just as bad. The bus turning around with the cars in there and people trying to back out. So that's why they thought the back of this store.
Is it a full-size bus, or is it a
No,
half bus?
half bus. Van, I guess?
And then parents also come
Yes.
with their cars and would drop off at the front of the building as
Okay.
well. So they could walk their child directly into the facility. So it's both. And it's pre-K, this is for special kids, for special needs.
Special needs.
Special needs.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'm just worried
Okay.
somebody racing across.
I mean, obviously, you're
on their way to
landlocked,
work.
landlocked with the trailway back
that?
there.
I'm sorry?
You're landlocked with the trailway back there, so it kind of helps segregate the property,
And there really is no place to put her on that property.
so. All right, any questions from the board?
Questions? No questions.
Down there? No questions, thank you. Anybody over here? Okay, any input from the public on this application? Okay,
I wanted to just put a request in, if it's at all possible, if we could have a decision tonight, would that be possible?
I think you're gonna get that.
It's a very time-sensitive, okay.
I think
Thank
you're
you.
gonna get that. I have a sneaking suspicion.
Just saying.
Thank you.
Let me close the public hearing on this application. No public input at this point, so I'll look for a motion on that.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you guys need to take a break tonight?
Let's just.
All right, so in fairness to you guys, since you're here last, we'll adjudicate on your application. So, with that said, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
Hold on. Do we want to do the landscaping in there, though, or no?
You can, it'll be picked up at the planning board, but if you feel comfortable in doing that, you have every right to.
To the satisfaction of the planning board, something like that.
That sounds good.
Greg?
I was just saying, there's a site plan application, it's going to have a landscaping component to it.
So you don't need to make it a
Okay,
condition.
that's fine. Just,
We can make a recommendation to the planning board.
Right.
that's fine. That's what we'll do.
Dawn, please note that, and she'll pick that up on the minutes.
And I go to both meetings, so I can share it too.
All right, so.
We have a
all-
second?
We
Yeah.
did get a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you,
Guys, good
everybody.
luck.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
That'd be nice to have.
All right, getting back to the agenda.
Oh, my God.
Scalera's here.
All right. Number 2, Julius Mangione. Do I have a motion? I think we did that already, didn't we?
No,
No.
we did.
we did not. We did bills.
Do I have a motion?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Number 3, Evan Tartaglia. Do I have a motion?
Motion to grant.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Granted. Number 4, Scalera. Do I have a motion?
Motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any
The same
discussion?
condition as last time?
Yes.
The condition was 2 years.
No, not that condition.
Not
Sorry.
that condition.
With the same condition of Mike Simone,
There's recommendation.
the recommendation that Mike Simone look at the driveway
Yes.
So amend your,
in the right-of-way.
Okay,
So
was
amended?
my application?
Yes.
Was my,
The language
no, I thought it was Michael's.
regarding the superintendents.
Do you want it now, so that it's in there?
Yeah, we might as well, for Dawn's sake, to,
Board received a letter from the highway superintendent which stated that the board granted this 288 variance that would help him by providing a place to put snow in bad weather.
so Mike, your motion is based on that condition?
Correct.
Just be in the findings of fact, okay?
Incorporate the prior findings of fact from
Okay,
the earlier resolution.
seconded with that condition.
all right, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so motion granted. Number 5, Matthew Tucker, look for a motion.
Motion to grant?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Granted. All right, number 6, Zakatinsky,
Motion to grant.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Wait. Looks like Rose has got something.
I'm just wondering if we should put a condition in there that This is for storage only and no repair should be done. I'd hate to have him start extending his workshop outside.
That's fine if whoever made the motion wants to amend it.
I'll do that.
All right, who seconded it?
I did.
To that effect?
Second with the amendment.
Okay, Rose, satisfactory? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, granted with that condition.
Kamala, we did.
Number 7, Kamala, we did. Number 8, Marianne and Ray Watson, look for motion.
Motion to grant with the understanding that the applicant will provide a 5-foot variance instead of the 10-foot,
As requested.
as requested by the board.
Do I have a second?
I have second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, granted. ShopRite Caramels
That's held over.
held over.
And we did 10.
And number 10, we did. All right, the minutes from September 2017,
Motion
September
to
28th.
accept.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Someone
Aye.
wasn't here, though.
Mark wasn't here.
Mark was not here.
So he abstains.
Mark abstains.
Just exclude me then, thank you.
Okay. All right, that's it for meeting. Thank you all. We'll see you next month.
Whenever it is.
Whenever it is.
Which we need to talk about, I guess, so.
What are we doing next?
You signed
What are
these.
we doing next month?
We don't know yet. Because it's Thanksgiving and I don't plan on being here Thanksgiving. Just saying. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Here's Dawn's notes, guys.